coming in the afternoon today. I want you to know that Jay is at a conference, so I'll be taking notes and kind of facilitating. Amy Howard will be here to help pass the microphone next time. We've got quite a few people not in attendance today, but we have more than enough for a good quorum. So, Curry, you want to start? Anybody want to let me know who's absent and any time constraints?
Yeah, I don't think we have time constraints. Jill and Iris are not here for our side.
Mario.
Oh, and Mario, yes. He may be late, we're not sure.
Okay. I'm gonna cross it off now if I have to. Okay, Ron.
Good afternoon. We have absent today Randy. Carl may be able to make it towards the end. Rob Dodig will no longer be on the negotiating team. Charisse will not be here, and Angela will be late, and Sarah has a time constraint at 3. I think that's everybody.
And you have labor management at 4.
Yes, and we have a hard stop at 4.
Okay. We have the agenda from 6-1. So any questions, comments, concerns, amendments to the agenda on 6-1? Please let me know. Okay, see no comments, questions, concerns, amendments?
There was one.
Yeah.
When I was going back through the minutes, Curry, there was in your options that you presented, I thought there was, one of the options was to raise performance pay to 500, and I couldn't find that one in there. Maybe it just was in my mind that was in one part of the option that you presented, but can you just check on that? Because it said that the notes say 300, but I could swear it was part of the discussion.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Yeah, I think Curtis was from the notes, so I have that.
And I can see in the option the cost of performance pay was 1.7, which tells me that was just 300 for everybody, because I know last year's was 1.45. So if it was 500, it would have been significantly more.
It was, my calculation was just 300.
Okay.
Maybe we said 500 at one point, throwing something out there.
I just didn't see it in the notes. I just wanted to confirm that. That's it. That's all I had.
All right, so can we go ahead and test the agenda as written for 6-1? Excellent. Thank you kindly. Start off right away. Okay, we last left off with oh, no, they're wrong.
Amy, can I throw something out
Of course you can.
while you're looking? We need to talk about special instructional and bringing their years in. It's been a couple of years. I know we made a firm commitment to really talk about it this year, maybe get something done. And I know we have, and not that special instructional and SPALC are the same, but at least we have a kind of a blueprint from the SPALC experience. So maybe if we could talk a little bit about that as well today to kind of fulfill our commitment to get them what they need to be successful.
Is that a proposal? Is that an option? Do you have something to go along with this, or just want to discuss it?
I guess it's an option to do it. I mean, we talked about it last year, and we talked about it this year. We kind of made the firm commitment last year and an option, I think, that we were gonna solve the problem this year. That's my recollection, but I think, I don't wanna put it off in another year. And I just don't know how complicated a conversation it's gonna be, because I wasn't involved in the Spout one. But like I said, we at least have that blueprint kind of to guide our discussion there, to develop a plan for them to bring in the experience they're able to bring in.
You know what option that is? 4, 5?
For now?
Yeah.
I don't know. You'd think I'd keep track of stuff, but the good news is I have Kurt, he does a much better job than I ever could.
If that's under compensation, that's, I think, the second option. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we really only have 2 options on the table so
then
far.
maybe this would be 3.
3, I think so, yeah.
3.
And you just want to say address years of experience?
Yeah.
Whatever you guys called it for spec, bringing in years of experience that were
It
previously.
should be years X, I think, for special instructional.
Okay, thank you. All right. Who wants to start? Where do we want to go tonight? Or this afternoon, rather, it's not even night this time.
We can start. I want to share something with you. Hopefully I can do that.
Do you want to share it there, or you want me to put it in?
If you could, you might as well just put it in the. See if we can do this. And this.
Is it the presentation?
Yes,
Okay.
I just
I can do that.
sent it to you.
I don't have 2-screen access like Judy does, so don't think this is much better than I do, so bring it out.
So I'd like to start the conversation off with picking up where we left off with career ladder. So I want to throw up I don't want to throw up. I would like to put up on the screen what some of the options that were presented by the career ladder committee. And I think this is proposal number 2 that I want to put up here. And that would be what we would recommend as coming to consensus on how we cover the career ladder, again, based on that conversation that we had last year and at the last bargaining session as well. So that would be slide 2. So this is, again, the proposals that were presented to the Career Ladder Committee, and we would hopefully agree that this would be the way that we would codify how we're gonna pay out Career Ladder. And the expense here is 3.178, or the amount of teachers was 3,178. I mean, that's obviously gonna be flexible based on who's eligible and those kinds of things. But this is pretty much the percentages, completion criteria and all that was actually presented by the committee. And it's not part of the bargaining authority. Salary increases.
Yes.
This is salary increases, not bonuses.
Anna? Yeah, thank you.
I'll run microphones.
I just wanted to clarify, this was the original plan that we had discussed, paying out. This was the original one, correct?
And then when we met,
again, we went through 3 proposals, and this is the one that we agreed upon in that second meeting. So the only thing that differs is that under 20% as of 12/15/25, they're not eligible for payment. That means they did nothing for the first year.
Okay.
Or even here.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So I guess moving forward, you could put that kind of as an option for Article 10, whatever the career ladder. I didn't put that in the proposal, but we would probably want to just codify that under career ladder, that this would be the payout at least over the next, until FY31.
do we need to vote on that? I'm gonna put in here FPL option for, ratify. Whoever else is in here, you can move your cursor. The curve. Curve over cursor. Okay, do you want to test that already? Do you have any other questions or concerns?
I'm good with testing that to codify that as part of Article 10.
Okay. All right.
And
go
you
ahead.
said this was not part of bargaining authority?
No, it is not.
All right.
For the years to come as well, so, and we can add that.
Yes.
How do I add that?
In perpetuity.
Okay.
Good?
For all years applicable. All right, we will go ahead and test this, to codify the career ladder proposal number 2, not part of the bargaining authority for all years applicable.
Good.
Good. Nathan, all right, great, okay. Look at the collegiality going on. Okay. And then the district has a.
Yeah, so if you can, bear with me for a minute, the next slide, I got some data, and it kind of falls in line with what we just talked about with special instructional. So this slide represents basically all of our TALC, or TALC eligible salaries, so all instructional staff. This is their salaries, starting, with our starting salary of 54.5 and going on, through year, I think 50 there. And so the bottom row represents years of service. It's broken down into every 5 years. And then obviously the vertical line goes from the 50,000 all the way up to 130,000. So this scatter plot represents all of our salaries. The red line in the middle is the average salary then at each one of those years of service. So for example, we would expect that for 5 years of service, you would be pretty close to 60,000, 58, whatever that may be. So that would be the average of those. And again, just like we talked about last year, and with the special instructional staff, if we were to develop a pay grade, there would be a starting salary, obviously, which would be the minimum, but then there would also have to be a maximum. And so the next slide is, we just gathered some data. These are just from the districts we can gather. I actually have more data coming from FVN because I was curious, how many districts across the state of Florida have a starting salary and a maximum? And quite honestly, it's kind of what I'm used to throughout my 22 years as a superintendent. We always had a maximum at that. So even on a step salary schedule, you have years of service where, you know, you bump in years, and there's an amount attached to that. But then once you make that maximum, then there are no more salary increases at that point. You figure out whatever way you want to give those people the increases. And so this is just the number of districts. A lot of them are surrounding us, and other ones are like, and you can see, you know, some of them now, depending on the number of years of service, it ranges. Like one district has 21 as the max. 21 years of service is this salary level, and then that would be the max of the range. And so this is just an example of that. And so the next slide then is, and again, you know, kind of what we're interested in having a conversation about is this right here. And so this is a scatter plot with, if we develop a, pardon me?
I went too far. There we go.
This is a scatter plot with the, that blue line would represent what the target rate should be. Again, kind of like what the same process we use for SPOUT, what we're talking about for special instructional, and really across the district is kind of this open range concept of, you know, where you should fit on the salary pay grade. And so the max here is at 25 years of service at 80,000. And one of the interesting things, if I can, because I can't.
I know, I was trying to make it bigger.
No, that's okay, no. The interesting thing is, look at, you know, the years between 20 and 25. Okay, so obviously this is color coded. Some of our JROTC folks are on our salary schedule, but obviously, you know, they're at a higher pay because of the military supplement that they get, their MIP. We have our annual contract people in orange, and then those who are PSC and continuing contract. And so you can see this area in here, which is, you know, there's a lot of people actually that are below the target line. And so what our interest is taking a look at this and how do we take care of this? And with the limited resources that we have, how do we get those folks who are supposedly at 24 years of service that are still under $60,000? And so, you know, I don't necessarily have a plan or an option for TISA, but this is the TISA eligible. And remember, so anybody from this point with 10 plus years, because this is all years F. The folks that are on this are related to years F. So these folks are all eligible for a raise. And I believe it's mandated there has to be some raise for TISA in that, you know, in that range. But we don't, there's no limitations, or how we disperse that is up to us. But I felt like this is important to see, because I feel like we need to do something here.
Anna? Anna. Oh, sorry.
I got it. Come on.
You were doing that.
I just want to first thank you guys for providing information in this manner, because in fact, I know I personally have asked for us to look at our salary schedule like this in the past several years, because this is one way that we used to do it. And I feel like we haven't had information like this available to us in the past few sessions. And I think it's also important to note, as we've talked about compression over the past several different years and tried our best, I sit here and wonder, like, oh my gosh, what would this data look like if we hadn't addressed our salary proposals in the manner in which we have over the past several years. Because it is to me very concerning that there's so many teachers in that 20 to 30 line between, you know, that span that are so far beyond the target, you know, below the target line. And there's a lot of different things I think historically that have contributed to that. Number one, when we had to raise that minimum base salary by state statute, that contributed to this. And this also just further proves when we continue to raise the base and we don't do anything to address the salary increases throughout those years, this is exactly what happens. The more we continue to raise our starting salary, the more people become closer to that salary without any significant increase. So I know I appreciate looking at it this way. I think it's important that we always look at our increases this way.
So I may have missed it. Well, I guess I have two questions. You said this is years F? Because on there it says years X.
This one is the year's X, I'm sorry, but anybody within that would have to be at least 10 plus. I misspoke.
So does this only show TISA eligible positions? Or
This is
all
only
positions?
TISA eligible position, yes.
And this part I may have missed. How did you determine what the updated targeted rate is along the line with the positives?
How do we determine the blue line?
Sure.
So if you take the starting salary at 54.5 and then up to 25 years of service with a max of 80, and you take the 80,000 minus the 54.5, and then every year in between is worth a certain amount. And so that's where you should be on the target rate. So it is based on years of service, which again, I think we've kind of gotten away from that, right, a little bit, and we've not really taken that into consideration. I think for sustainability reasons, that the movement towards this is a good thing for everybody involved, so that we can figure out where people should be and make those adjustments accordingly.
How did you determine the top salary? That would be 80,000.
Yeah, just on the gathering of data from other districts, you know what I mean, like what should it be, where are we at, you know what I mean, like there should be, most of the districts are right around 80. Collier's a little higher, right? Yeah, definitely Collier's is 90.
Over 30 years.
Yeah, those are for 30 years. Like that's the key is sometimes like you don't know where the maximum amount of years is for that.
My issue is like adjusted for future inflation. Right, a report just came out today, inflation's at like 6%, way under the Fed 2%. So like we sit here today and say, yeah, 80,000 is a great top target. But you know, what does 80,000 buy? And not necessarily we have to worry about it for 25 years from now, but what do any of these amounts buy in the future related to inflation? And by capping it, aren't we restricting our ability to have permanent wage increases when 80,000 or 60,000 isn't worth 60,000?
Go ahead, Shay.
You go first.
What?
No, I mean,
I think that, again, because you're trying to determine that salary range, but then, you know, you can adjust the entire salary range then according to what the cost of living increases are on a regular basis. And so every year you take a look at that salary range and maybe at some point you're not only getting that bump for a year, but we've adjusted for cost of living, then the whole range moves over. That's the whole concept behind it. Again, it's, I think, you know, we've obviously got, you know, if you look to the farther right, because we've not capped that and we've continued, it creates the, I mean, the top salaries out there are over 100,000 as opposed to there's people here that are making twice as much as somebody else. So that's the key. I think you want to stop that from happening by doing the mid and the max, so that people aren't, that there's not that much inequity or discrepancy between the top person and the bottom person. That's the whole concept behind open range. You know, when the cost of living happens, you move the whole range when necessary.
So you say this is TISA eligible. So here's part of my concern. There are a lot of us, some of us even sitting at this table, that have more than 10 years. But because of our job classification code, we're not eligible for TISA.
Right.
So, and I don't know how many of that affects. I know it affects me, I think it affects Heather, but then we're still creating discrepancies when we don't raise everyone the same amount. And I understand some of this is tied to law, but I feel like if we're only looking at that and we're only looking to target that this year, we are gonna create compression in certain categories. And that's a concern.
Yeah, I mean, we do have market research, you know, we definitely have to do something with special instructional along this time at some point. Like, we talked about that last year, like, they needed to figure out, but we couldn't really agree on that because we didn't put enough time into it. And again, you know, and I'll use Spout because it was brought up for an example. I mean, this same system we tried to develop because we had the same issues. We had an electrician who was here 4 years making the same as an electrician who was here 10 years. And so based on what they were allowed to bring in, based on what that contract at that time permitted, same thing that we have here, right? At one point, you were only allowed to bring in 3 years. At some point, maybe it was 10 years, then back to 8 years, and now it's 20 years. So again, those kinds of things have created all of these discrepancies. And so trying to get people in the right seat on the bus where they should be is not an easy task, because it would cost way more than we could afford at that point to do everybody at one time. So what we've done with Spout is last year, we moved everybody to 50% of their target. This year, we would have loved to move everybody to the remaining 50%. We just didn't have it in the budget, so we agreed to move them 30% to the target. So every year, we're moving people and they're getting increases to get them to where they should have been all along, is the whole point of this. So the key is we need to get our folks who are down there closer to where they should be and continue that process so that we can create a system that is sustainable, so that every year then we can say, okay, we're moving the range 2% and we're doing this with TISA and it's pretty much equitable for everybody at that point. That to me is equity. Other than if we give, again, this is just the TALC proposal and option is all these people from here to here get $2,089. And again, we admitted it last time around, does nothing for the compression that exists, or the lack of equity, I should say, that exists within each year of service. All it does is continue the same. But we have done nothing for those people, especially this one. I mean, this is pretty unbelievable. But
I guess the issue I have, and I understand it's not created by the district or by us, is that TISA with these job classifications. Because, and I'm gonna use myself as an example. I have a 10-year teacher at my school that's gonna get $2,089. But then I get whatever else is handed out, I guess is the best way to say. When I feel that my job is just as important as her job. And I feel like a lot of times we've created has and has nots. Like the incentive plan is a has and has not. And I just feel like every year we're in that continuous cycle. And I understand your long-term plan, but long-term plans don't put money in people's pocket now when they need it. And that's my biggest concern.
So is this the system that you employed with Spout that got a member calling the office saying they got a 1 cent an hour raise? And if this is the system you employed with Spout, why did the news media report a 4-point-something% salary increase for Spout? And like, again, we're playing this game with numbers. Like the Spout employee got, the letter said 1 cent.
it's not a game.
But I'm asking if this is the system
Gotcha.
that we're going to establish, because again, it's,
Right.
nobody wants to hear, hey, you're at the mid-range of your target, so you don't get any money this year. That's what that's,
So everybody got an increase. But what we're trying again to do is eliminate the inequities that exist within that. So if you were only 1 cent away from your target, you got moved to your target and got an additional increase above that. So everybody else got a bonus at that point until we catch everybody up. So that is the concept behind this pay grade system, is to eliminate the inequities that exist within the salary structure. Which, again, you wanna talk about inequity, look at this chart here. There's inequities all over the place, and for whatever reason, we, whatever, whether it was legislation or the way we divvied up money in the past or whatever, has created this. I was as surprised to see this as anybody, like Anna said, like, look at that. I mean, it's hard to argue that, we need to do something to fix it. I would love to be able to say, it's gonna cost us 60 million to fix and put everybody where they should be, and then take a look at what we do from there. But even in that case, if you are above the target line, which is where you absolutely should be in an open range system, if we continue to put salary increases there, then you're still gonna have that inequity in those discrepancies. At some point, you need to catch everybody up, put equity and a structure in place that is sustainable.
so, did I jump? All right, so this vaguely resembles a step system. But I'm just gonna say that out loud for my poor mind. And so let's say I'm at 23 this year, and I'm at the middle point of my target range, right? The raise I get would then move me up to the middle of year 24 because next year is 24? Or does it move me up to the,
That's what we wanted.
because my problem is the target's constantly moving. This appears to work if people are stationary. If I'm stuck in 10 my entire career, I think we can close it. But then I move to 11. So now I'm again functionally at the bottom of my range because we just took my dot and slid it over. And the line went up. And so you see what I'm saying? Can you see what I'm saying? Here, hang on. So let's look at an employee here. So I'm here, right?
Right,
Next year, experience-wise, I'm gonna be here.
right.
If you just move me over, there's a gap again between me and the blue line.
You should get the target increase. That you should always be at the target line.
So what we're doing is what we tried to do 100 years ago, which is make, and Kevin can talk about this, is make every year of service worth X amount of dollars. Right? That's kind of what we tried to do a long time ago, because if I'm moving from here to here, I need at least the amount to get me onto the blue line. And then if I'm here and move here and I'm still over the line, the problem with a bonus for me is it's not, so I just get bonuses until I intercept the blue line again? You see what I'm saying?
If you are above the line, if you are above that line until we catch people up.
But I mean, but no, let's talk about this person
Because
here.
you've technically been making more over the last few years.
Well, I disagree with that statement. Nobody in this county, including you guys on that side of the table, makes more than they deserve. A lot of people make.
No, I didn't say more than you.
But I'm just
deserve.
saying.
I said more than everybody else.
But I'm just
I didn't
saying,
say more
so-
than you deserve. It's not what I said, Kevin. I said more than everybody else.
All right, so let's take this person for example. So this person is over this line. Is that that's a JROTC person, probably a bad. Well, let's look at this person. This person is above the line. So they're gonna experience their career going this way. So until I intersect this line again, I just get bonuses.
That's.
Is that the theory? I'm asking for the theory.
No. So you're right. This is very similar to a step schedule.
Okay.
And many districts have incorporated their performance pay within that, like what Collier does, right? There is obviously steps within the steps, but every year you move where you should be. So if you're here and you're at the mark, yes, you're moving here, but you deserve an increase to get you where you should be within your target. which
Okay.
absolutely does resemble a step
I
schedule.
mean, I'm just trying to figure out, like, again, bonuses are the enemy, because bonuses are not
Sure they are.
FRSable. I mean, they're the enemy, right? Everybody works for 30 or 35 years, and one of the great things about this gig is you have a reliable pension, and you don't make money now, but you're supposed to have pretty comfortable. So to have years of money not be pensionable is the enemy. So I'm just trying to figure out, like, if I'm above the line, I catch up to the line here, so it takes me 2 years to get to the midpoint. This year I get a bonus, this year I get a bonus, this year I don't get anything, I get a bonus, and then next year when I'm under the line, then I get a salary increase? Maybe I'm just confusing it.
The line is always gonna move, too, so if the line moves up for you for the next year, that would be the.
Right, but I'm saying, if I'm this person here, right, I make more than the middle, I'm gonna phrase it like that, I make more than the middle, so I would get a bonus, right? That bonus doesn't count towards salary, because I don't get any adjustment, I only get a bonus. Next year I move here, I'm still above the line, so I get a bonus. Okay, then this year, I'm even with the line, I get a bonus. This year, I'm a little under the line, so I get an adjustment in pay and a bonus, or just an adjustment in pay?
Whatever that difference is, so whatever we decide to allocate toward there, like, for example, in the spout.
Here. I mean, I don't want to stand there and just talk to you like we're 3 feet apart, but we need to talk about it.
Yeah, so in the spout case, as you move closer, like, for example, we said, we're gonna move everybody another 35% towards their target. But for you, if you were the electrician I was talking about, and you only needed 10% to get you to your target, then that would be the increase. Now you're at your target rate, that 10% got you there, then the rest of that would be in a bonus, because you're at your target rate. Once we get people at the target rate, then we can move the targets in the range itself.
Yeah, Kevin might be able to offer some perspective too. I'm over here too, right? Yeah. I'll bring you.
I mean, I have the microphone and it's on.
So do it.
So I just was gonna kind of ask about, the blue line, that flat line. So if I'm understanding what's going on here, once I reach that blue line, that's the maximum salary I could ever earn. And then from that point on, in the rest of my career, I would only be eligible for bonuses.
That's always negotiable. Is those, and that's what I've faced throughout my whole career is we're on the schedule, how far are we gonna move this? Then at some point, to make sure it's equitable. But as this line moves up, then the cap moves up too. So if we do a cost of living increase, say, like the whole line moves up 3%. So the whole line moves up 3%, so now it's here and then it's flat line. So that takes care of the target.
So in theory, I mean, that blue line looks like it kind of flatlines at about 25.
Yeah.
But in theory, there's people that could get to that $80,000 mark before year 25, and then with this, they're just gonna get bonuses the rest of the time until the line moves again.
I mean, good for them.
I'm just trying to understand,
Right. No, you're right.
bonuses kind of came out of nowhere, I'm trying to follow along, it's confusing, and I think we kind of started this conversation last bargaining session last year. So it is kind of difficult to follow, but I think that's a challenge when we talk about things being able to be ratified and getting people on board with this. If we're at this table sitting here confused, by all means, the vast majority of people who are gonna vote on this are confused. And I think it might be a hard sell without proper understanding communication that once you get that 80,000 mark, you'll not know if you'll ever get a salary increase again. You'll just always get a bonus, and bonuses don't do anything for retirement.
Yeah.
So I just want to kind of go off what Kevin was saying. At one time, we were trying to do $500 per year of experience. And each year, you would move $500 in salary. What throws a wrench into it is there's performance pay. There's all these other things that also go to base pay. So potentially, you might wanna have like a min and a max to kind of address Kevin's issue that he was showing, is at least you'll move this, but you can't move more than this. So it does allow to be over the line, and for those high performers, they'll always receive more than that, but there is a minimum as well.
And I'm gonna springboard off from what Kevin just said. Years ago, Anna brought up that when you take all of those people that are in that 20 to 30-year range and you see all those people that are below where they should be, there were people that worked really hard to get the highly effective, and that's why they're on that line or above that line instead of below it. So basically what you're doing is throwing away all that extra work that they did over those years for the highly effective.
So you said this is just those TSIA eligible positions. What about people that are non-TSIA?
Yeah, right now I'm just talking about TSIA and how we distribute that. The option that this is what I'm addressing is that I haven't put together an option for that without having the conversation first to answer any questions. But from a district standpoint, we're required to give everybody who's 10 plus years of years F an increase with a max in that increase of $3,000. And so there's no bottom numbers, there's no mid number or anything else. The proposal that you had was 2,089 for the 2,301 eligible people. And my ask is to consider this in a separate way of distributing the TISA money that we have that is intended for those classroom instructional teachers with 10 plus years, to not just give the $2,089 to everybody, but to be more intentional about trying to fix the people who are so far below where they should be, as opposed to people who are already above. And when I say should be, again, that's arbitrary based on our assumption that that blue line should be the target.
Is the board proposing a multi-year plan then? And the reason I ask is, you're bringing me back to my days bargaining the spout contract when market rate first started. And the promise from the board was, we're gonna fund this appropriately because it's gonna be a 3 or 4 year plan. And then every year, something happened where it wasn't funded appropriately. And it's gonna be very hard for me to buy into something that's not reduced to writing with some sort of funding for X number of years, with just kind of a trust me, we're gonna fund this appropriately.
In this case, we're talking about TISA. I think, again, there's a commitment to taking whatever the government gives us and making sure that it is applied to this structure.
So then are the only dollars the board's putting on the table TISA dollars?
There are some more, but this is the bulk of what's on the table.
The bulk being 6.1
Yes,
and Spout, and Spout got 5.
right.
Okay. Okay. What's next?
Next slide.
Yeah, if there's no other, Shay has a question?
No, I'll wait.
Yeah, so this is the a result of the meeting that we had. And so our bargaining authority at this point is 9.8 million, the 6.2 in TISA. However, we decide to negotiate that. We did accept the performance pay increase, and that 2.1 actually is with benefits. That's why it's different from the 1.7 that TALC proposed. And to also raise the starting salary from 54.5 to 55.3.
Option 5.
Yes.
So if I'm a non-TISA eligible employee, $300?
You're eligible for the performance pay, yes.
So if I'm a non-TISA eligible employee who's in my first year in the district, and you raise the starting pay by $800, and I'm eligible for $300.
Yes.
Okay.
Unless some of my team members have questions, I think.
How many more slides do we have?
That's it. I think we need to caucus. This is not what we were expecting. At least 30 minutes.
Okay, so I'll say 1:15?
Yeah.
Oh.
Okay. They don't have it.
Amy, you ready?
All right, Kurt, you guys call caucus report, or caucus first, would you like to go with your report?
Yeah, I put some notes on my computer, but it went to sleep.
Okay. Look at the sketch.
I feel like I've never too much, you need to call IT. IT will.
It's not working. I can only. Still targeted.
Oh yeah, I had notes here.
All right, so we discussed a lot, and I have bullets here, hoping to capture everything, and then we have a number of questions too. But kind of long story short, this is a lot to consider and really represents a wholesale shift in the way that compensation is structured here in the district. And we're gonna need some time to kind of fully evaluate the short and long-term impacts on our members and on future bargaining sessions. And the reason why I say that is the proposal relies very heavily on TSIA funding. And as you know, heavily on TSIA funding and relatively little local investment by the board. And the rules for TSIA change every year. The funding amounts change every year. And as we remarked before, it's very difficult to be enthusiastic about a plan that does this wholesale shift, not knowing what that type of investment is gonna look like from year to year. I mean, what if the legislature comes next year and says, okay, TSIA funding is $2 million for 10 years plus, or only for new teachers again? You know, with of the 9.8 million, with only with 2.4 million coming from, no, I guess that'd be, 3.6 million coming from the district. How can we be sure that the district will uphold that end of the bargain and fully fund this type of compensation model moving forward? We feel that this proposal creates very clear winners and losers by providing substantial increases for some, while offering many others only a $300 increase for performance. I think somebody said that if you're a teacher with 0 years, under this plan, you would receive an $800 increase moving the base. And someone with 25 years, say, that's not eligible for TISA would only receive a $300 increase. And we kind of came back to the fact that all employees face the same cost of living. Everybody buys the same gallon of milk, everybody pays the same for gas, and that's really how we centered our proposal. We're also concerned that your proposal largely erases the value that has historically been placed on employee performance. Because for many years, folks have worked very hard to achieve and maintain highly effective ratings. And to maintain, because those resulted in larger compensation increases until the last couple of years. And that this proposal would diminish that distinction and the effort in those who have invested so much to achieve it. I guess our last two thoughts are, we discuss how this proposal doesn't seem to match the board's public statements around valuing employees and making Lee County kind of a destination district. And I mean, very frankly, this proposal is insulting. Because just weeks ago, the board invested $18 million in a bonus scheme that provided bonuses for haves and have-nots. I'm sorry?
A bonus program.
I stick with my words. And 9.8 million here has been brought to the table, with 2/3 of that being state funding and not new investment. We continue to hear statements about supporting employees, and we really expected a proposal that that reflected that. Those are kind of our thoughts summed up. I'm sorry? Yes, oh, and that's true, thank you for that. We also, we were looking at the numbers of, I'm calling them haves and have-nots or winners and losers, and we kind of looked at numbers and just, we don't believe that this plan is necessarily ratifiable. I do have some questions, but I can save those after caucus reports.
Let me know if you change anything else. And then, Ron?
We actually didn't spend the whole time in caucus. Nader was able to join us, so we kind of brought her up to speed on kind of where we were at and what was presented. So kind of went through again. We just had, a little bit more discussion about, the attempt last year, and I think we did a fairly good job of trying to address some of the compression issues and, what we presented last year and the structure of that, trying to move towards a more what I consider equitable salary structure. I definitely think, and we had some discussion about the merit of, some of those teachers who, under the performance pay schedules, whenever that was, I think we have to take a deeper dive into that to see, the level of where they went and how much they received from that performance pay. And I think that has to be part of the equation because we don't want to diminish, those teachers who were highly effective for years under that system. And so that might be something that we also need to take a look at. But again, and I know we're having discussions about, the gallon of milk, which costs the same for everybody. But then again, two people who may, be able to buy a gallon of milk and one person can't, but yet they maybe teach the same subject and have the same years of experience, we think is also a problem. And so, unfortunately, we don't have a lot of money to fix it all right now. And the commitment is, to continue to work on those types of issues. I understand, what happened with market rate and how that's created some of the inequities. I just think that there is a commitment to organizing, developing, and implementing a salary structure that is equitable and sustainable. And in order to do that, if we continue to do what's happened over the last 3, 4, 5 years, where we've said, here's 8%, everybody gets the same, we just don't do anything to fix some of those issues. So, and that's our intent with the limited amount of resources that we have, is to really address some of those issues. That was our caucus report.
Amy, the only thing that's missing from my caucus report is that the board approved $18 million for incentive programs, yet only 9.8 has been brought to the bargaining table.
Yeah, which
6.1 is, or 6.2 is money from the state. 18 million incentive program, yet only 9.8 million has been brought to the table. Of that, 6.2 is from the state. I guess I have some questions too. Do you want to move into those or? Does the board's proposal, I'm looking back at the scatter plot. Does the board's proposal move every employee to, well, let me back up. So under this plan, the line looks like it's a difference of $1,020 per year. I took 80,000, subtracted 54.5 divided by 25. So does the proposal bring every employee to the line or near the line? Like how do they move?
So I think what's left on the table in relation to that is, and again, similar to how we progressed with Spout was, let's take a look at, all right, let's say we move everybody 50%, but unfortunately with this, we have a $3,000 cap. So if 50%, for some people may be $3,000, right? And then they would be, it might be less than 50% for them because the cap is $3,000. So we would have to take a look at each one of those, a solution file that would say, okay, let's say we move everybody 50% towards the target. Those that reach the $3,000 limit, there's money left over to be redistributed, again, to be able to do that. I think with this, if we took the 6.2 million and we just kind of ran some scenarios, we think we can probably look at anywhere from 50 to 75% of people moving towards their target. And obviously, the farther away, the closer you get to that 75%. Unless it, but again, we have to deal with a cap of 3,000.
So then, the slide 6, where it says bargaining authority, that's not really a proposal then. I guess it's just kind of what the board's willing to spend.
Right.
Are they, so then how does the 55.3 fit in there? Is the board saying we're willing to spend 9.8, but you have to move the starting salary to 55.3?
Yes, that represents one of their interests.
So it's an interest, not a requirement?
It's an interest. It's part of the option, I guess, would be whatever we come to. I guess the intent was really around, well, we had talked about bifurcating TISA at some point. So, you presented an option for TISA, which was included in basically your overall option. We know that, we have the 6.2, obviously, that we have to figure out, we have a deadline to do that. And that's what our focus was here on, let's talk about something other than just giving everybody the same amount, which is what TALC proposed at the last session.
Okay, so then you're not prepared to talk about how close to the target everybody would get. You haven't worked that much out.
I mean, we have run some scenarios, again, within the 6.2 million, if we were to move people to 75% of the targets with that's, and again, it fluctuates because of the $3,000 cap. But if we maxed it at 75% towards their target, then we would be able to be within the $6.2 million range.
So then there was discussion about folks over the line not receiving a salary increase, but receiving a bonus. I don't see anything in slide 6 about that. Is there a proposal for bonuses for those over target?
No, we didn't, because TISA does not allow for a bonus. So if we're only using TISA, it has to be a salary increase.
So then is the board not willing to put any additional money on the table other than what I see here on slide 6?
Right now, all we have is TISA, the performance pay, and the increase. So that is outside of the negotiation for TISA, which again is our option based on that. Everything's negotiable. Maybe I don't understand what you're asking me.
So okay, let me ask you this. Are we only negotiating TISA, or are we negotiating more than that? Because our proposal was how to use TISA dollars and then what we wanted to see with others.
And it was included in your overall proposal.
So the way that I read this is
So we did
the
the
only
same.
pot of money that the board has authorized you all to negotiate with is 9.8 million.
Yes.
And that's it.
That's it.
Okay, so then there would be no room for bonuses for anybody over the target.
Well, there's 6.2 in TISA, and there's an additional dollars that would bring us to the max. Our options that we have on the table are to use it for performance and starting salary. Again, we presented it kind of as a total option because that's what you guys did last time.
We presented numbers last time about how many people are TISA eligible and ineligible. Did you guys rerun those, and are we in agreement with kind of rough agreement?
We're pretty close. The only issue I had with that was it's intended for full-time classroom teachers, so we just have to agree on what is a full-time classroom teacher. Our contract currently says if you're above 20 hours a week, that's considered full-time.
Right.
Full-time employee or full-time classroom teacher. So I think that's just, and whatever we determine here is just a matter of agreeing upon.
Okay. 'Cause I mean, I was looking at the data file and yeah, I mean, this is from the 12th. There were 69 people without removing duplicates
Right.
of those with less than 20 hours a week. So I'm anticipating it being maybe 40 or 50.
Yeah, so we're probably looking at 2,250 eligible people. I think we were at 2301.
That's okay.
Right.
Yeah, 2301. I guess I have two more. Is the idea under this proposal that in future years, anytime the base is raised, that the max is also raised? Or is the idea to more or less flatten that line?
In my experience, working with this kind of system, it was that, increases to the base move the line.
So the whole structure moves vertically.
Right.
And those that are at the max, there is no room for over the max, right? Like if I'm a year 24 employee that makes 79.9, I get $100 increase to go to 80 under this plan. Is that about right?
And then things are typically negotiated beyond that, right? So if we, whatever that looks like is negotiable, but at least the structure in itself is in place.
The last question I have is we also included a proposal around allocation of dollars for supply money. Was there any discussion with the board about utilizing money in that materials and supplies line item for that?
We did not.
There was no discussion, or they decided against it?
There was no discussion.
Okay. Can you at some point ask them, please?
Oh, that's right. Right, okay. They don't know this.
We did present to the board what TALC's options were. So that was part of the discussion. We did share that. But it was not it did not come up in the discussion. I apologize for miswording. That was just, Sarah just.
So, as I say, Tal has your permission to go back and forth from the chair. So because it didn't make it into their proposal, it can be assumed that they did not want to do it?
I would assume that.
Or they did not, or they were not pressed on that part of it?
I would assume that they weren't.
They did not want to do
They
it?
did not want to include.
Okay, thanks.
Anna was next and then
I can't.
Go ahead, Anna.
You have it. That's all right. Amy said you were next.
You want to rock, paper, scissors for it?
I wanna see that.
So I'm just having this is very hard to understand. Like we said, this is a new way of looking at implementing compensation. I know it was briefly touched upon last year, and then we took it off of the table. I wish that we would have had some more education and more knowledge base on what your guys' goal is, because it seems to be a goal that is not going away. One of the things that I'm struggling about is struggling with through our conversations is this target. The word target has been used over and over again, and the target seems very arbitrary. And it seems like it's just the target's there, but no one knows what the target is or how. It's very arbitrary to me, and I just don't see how we can clarify this to people that are going to vote on it when there isn't much information about it. I mean, and we even have said that the district's not ready to discuss a certain percent, that it's just an idea, but we need to come up with an idea. I know we're running into timelines of things. And nothing to me with this seems very concrete when we talk about how we've historically done compensation. Things, if you're this to this, you're getting a this percent, or, though that information is more concrete, for our members to understand. And this seems very, like I said, to me, it's just very arbitrary, and I don't know how we could communicate. I know for sure, if I'm confused, I'm not gonna be able to be a person that can communicate this to somebody else. So if everything is just like an idea, we don't know, it's like nothing's known, it's just, yep, here's the target, we wanna raise the target. I just feel like we need more information, cause it does not seem very clear to me. Not to say that this idea can't be something we work towards in the future, because quite frankly, I don't know enough about it to know if that's something that is possible. It just seems, it's very elusive to me.
We kind of went through these conversations with Spelk as well, because they weren't really understanding of what we meant by target. It was communicated from way back when, after the Evergreen study, that, there was a midpoint that was the focus on, but I think people just kind of got away from, or were misinformed. I guess the easiest way for me to explain it would be, and if the minimum was 50,000, starting there, and in 25 years, then the max was 75,000. So every year would be worth 1,000. So that's how you determine whether you're at year 2, you would be at 52,000. If you're at year 5, you would be at 55,000. That would be your target. So you take the max minus the min, and then divide it by the year span, and that's what basically every year would be where you should be within that. So that's about the most practical way to explain that. So if you're supposed to be in 10 years, you would be at 60,000, and you're only at 55,000, and we said, we'll move you 75% of the way. That's 75% of that, of 5,000, right, would be, where would, what is that, 4,000?
I'm not math person.
Okay. Obviously, I'm not either. I couldn't make that off the top of my head. But that's basically how it works. So, if you're at 10 years and you should have been at 60,000, but your salary is only 55, then, in this proposal, then you could only get $3,000 because that's the max. So that would only be about 40%. That's why I said it's hard to say, that the range is because when we were working with Spout, we didn't have a cap to worry about. We just said it's 50%, so you would get an additional $5,000 towards your target. That way, you should have gotten 10, but we were only able to move you 50% because that's what we can afford. So that's kind of the short version of how that works. So, and it took some conversations and discussion. One of the things we did with Spout that I think was very helpful was before the vote, we sent every Spout member a letter saying, this is where you're at, this is where your target is, based on this is what your increase will be, which we would do the same.
So I have 2 questions. First one's related to the TISA. So you said it was approximately 2,300 people that are TISA eligible. Do you know how many people over 10 years are not TISA eligible? And it could be approximate. I mean, we did our numbers.
I think it was 500 that are over 10 years but are not TISA eligible.
So those 500 people would not be eligible for anything but performance pay, correct?
Correct. Under what we have right now, right? Under this option.
Okay. So then, just to put some clarity in my mind, so let's say I'm a 10-year employee. Let's talk about 2 10-year employees. Now let's say the target's 55,000, hypothetically. So if one of those people were at 50,000, and one of those people were at 55,100.
Right.
They would receive different TISA money?
Yes, absolutely. That's the whole structure is based on who is at the target, who's not at the target, and how do we move people as close to the target as possible.
So people that have, let's just say somebody's been in the district 10 years and they've worked really hard for those 10 years to get to the salary they're at, and someone's maybe had 5 years experience somewhere else and then came here with 5 years experience and isn't there yet, we're rewarding them.
Well, I think you have two separate issues there. When you say that worked very hard to get where they're at, if you're referring to the performance pay, if that's what it took to get you to that level as far as working very hard, I think we have to look at that. I really do. I think that's a legitimate point, that if you were brought up to that because of the performance pay issues, but what's happened over the years really is not there's another part of that that's what's happened, is it all was based on the amount of years you were able to bring in with you. So really your years T, X, however you want to call that, has fluctuated so much throughout the years that that's also created these inequities. Like we both have 10 years, but when you came in at year 3, you know what I mean, you were able to bring in all 3 of your years. When I came in maybe at 7 years and we both have 10, I was only allowed to bring in 1 or 2 years. That's, if we look throughout the contracts and the amount of years that you were able to bring in, and then trying to true up what everybody actually has, we ran into the same thing with SPEC. Like, some people were allowed to bring in their years of experience. Our special instructional are a really good example of that. They bring in years of experience, but none of it goes towards their salary. So number one, if we were to fix that, we have to go back, figure out how many years they actually have of experience, and then base their targets based on that. And so that's part of what the discrepancy. I agree that we need to look a deeper dive into, as you said, worked really hard, got a high effective rating, and therefore your performance pay got you to a certain place. Like, we need to take that into consideration. This data doesn't give us that we had that. But like I said, I think you're right. I think we need to take a deeper dive into that. But again, you got to remember that some people, it had nothing to do with their performance. It was based on how many years they were allowed to bring in at that time. And again, that's not necessarily fair to try to, somebody was able to bring in 3. We're both in the same district now, but I was able to bring in 7. And so that's why we both have 10 years of experience, and I'm making $6,000 more.
And I just want to clarify that the goal going forward is not really to say that every tenure teacher is going to get the same amount of money, whether they're ineffective or highly effective, that you've got 10 years, this is what you're going to make. Because there does need to be room for variation based on performance. But in order to really get there, there's so much inequity that we have to get to some kind of a level playing field to correct some of these inequities before the performance pay really means performance, as opposed to being lucky at what contract year you came in at.
Yeah. Oh, my goodness. I had 2 more cookies.
So I think one of our concerns from this side of the table is that we're only looking to do that for a partial part of our employees this year. That if that in theory is we need to get everyone to a target line and address the people that are not there, we're only doing it with some of the employee groups. And I understand that TISA is money that comes from the state, it has special requirements, but I think that when we had our proposal of making that what we called whole money, I think it was, make that TISA money whole, is if when we look at all of our employees, whether you could have been a classroom teacher for 10 years, and because of all of the budget changes around here, now you've been moved to a different employee, now you're ineligible for your compensation to be moved to that target line. That to us, I think, is one of our biggest things when we talk about creating people with the haves and the have-nots, that everyone deserves to have their compensation looked at. And if it's really truly that big of an inequity, which we do see, which again, I think that we need to to come to some sort of consensus that when we look at salaries on a plot scatter line like that, every single time we come to this table, because I have been asking for it for years, because that's how we used to do it. Instead of us just going, let's address compression, we think that it will go here, looking at that data, I think when we have that visual, and we really look at it and go, wow, there is an inequity with these groups of people. However, we should really be looking at addressing all of the people, not just the people that are TISA eligible. And I know it's just TISA money, but just providing $300 in performance pay and raising the base salary and addressing a handful of people is not fair to the other teachers, when I know my job cannot get done without the support of all of those other people that help run a school site. The day-to-day does not get done without those people, and their jobs are just as valuable as a classroom teacher.
Any other questions, comments? Proposal or option?
I have something I want to say.
Want to think about it a minute?
All right, I'm about to get into some trouble. Because under this plan, if 2,301, I know our numbers are a little off, are TISA eligible, that's 38.5% of the bargaining unit. So under this plan, am I reading right? 61.5% of the bargaining unit would not be eligible. They would be eligible for performance pay. Is that about right?
That's true. I mean, it is what it is. I'll say it, there's a limited amount of resources due to the budget. So for some people, it would result in possibly a freeze.
And that doesn't create a ratifiability concern on the board's part? I mean, if 61% of the bargaining is not getting.
Absolutely does. I mean, we're not immune to the idea that the goal is to get as many people increases as possible. So then I don't have the resources at the table to be able to do that. We all would like to do as much as we could, but we don't.
So then here's kind of my concern. And I don't know how to say it, so it's just gonna come out. It's not just the amount of money being spent, it's where it's spent. And when people see the board dangling this golden carrot from this incentive and then putting far less kind of on the table, I mean, to me, a reasonable person, it creates a perception that the district is attempting to, or the board, attempting to bypass collective bargaining or devalue the collective bargaining process. And I don't know that I'm really looking for a response, but that's really how I'm feeling. Union busting isn't the right word, but it's damn well close. Yeah, very close.
I'm sorry, besides union bus, you used a different word that I was gonna put in here about the union.
Not the damn well close part.
I was saying you served, that's not what you said.
I said bypassing collective bargaining.
Thank you.
Yeah, or I think I may have said devalue collective bargaining as well. If not, I'm saying it now.
Was the word I was looking for, thank you.
So I'm going to use another analogy today because I used one last time. And it may reflect poorly on me as a parent. But as a father and a parent, I control the budget in the house. 3 daughters, when they wanted something, we didn't necessarily have the money. But I know when I wanted to play golf, I was able to. So again, I fully acknowledge the fact that the state does not give the district, and I'm not going to say you because you said you didn't have, you're only bringing forth what they give you. So it's not you, right? But when we talk about this idea that there's not I blatantly disagree with that. Because when we want to hire an attorney for 18 months and pay him $330,000, we've got it. When we want to do a $19 million incentive, and I'm going to be nice and not call it a scheme, incentive that creates a haves and have-nots in schools, we got it. When we want to hire an assistant to the chief of staff, we got it. When we want to do these things, we got it. When your employees come and ask for what I'm going to say is the least amount of money I've ever asked for in 8 years, we ain't got. It's a priority issue. Spin it how you want. The board in this offer has $9 million available. 6 point something is the money that the legislature and the governor set aside for a specific task. So out of the $2 billion budget, they prioritize their employees in the TALC bargaining unit for $3 million of their money. I do not agree with the there is not, because whenever the board wants or the district wants, there is. It's innumerable examples of that. Every board agenda, spending money like it's nothing. But when we want, we ain't got. And that's what's frustrating, and that's what makes it an insult on behalf of the people we represent at this table. If you think, I mean, honest to God, 60-something% of the bargaining unit is gonna get $300. $300. $300 a year. $12.50 a check before taxes. I mean, it's whenever they want to do something, they have. No matter what it is, no matter how many new people they want to add down here. Directors, assistant directors, this and that, and this and that. They've got. Any plan they've got. Employees ask for what I think, honestly, the amount I put up isn't what I wanted to do, but it's what we felt was doable based on what Spout got, based on what you were already seated from the governor and the legislature, and based on the idea that we generally get a certain factor more than Spout gets for our bargaining unit. Lowest amount of money in 8 years. The board's response was they value their employee group $3 million for 6,000 people. And that tells a lot, that says a lot from the board and the district. That's how much they value their employees. $3 million for 6,000 employees, some of which doesn't even go to current employees, is devoted to new teacher pay, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But again, new teachers are gonna make $800 more than they did last year. First-year teachers are gonna make $300 more than they did last year. Retention and recruitment. Tell me why that first-year teacher has a reason to stay when the person who just walked across the stage at Florida Gulf Coast is making more money than they're making. Especially when we're in an area where we are low for starting pay, as that graphic said. So again, it's priorities. 19 million, the priority is to bonus people, and to bonus people who teach at certain schools in certain subjects, and not bonus people that don't teach those subjects. It's not salary increases, permanent pensionable salary increases. That's not the priority, because that was $2 million or $3 million of district money. So, and again, the supply thing, I'm flabbergasted at the idea that they said no to that. That's money that's forever been over budgeted and underspent. If you're not gonna give us that money, then damn it, buy some supplies for the schools. So these schools' teachers don't have to buy their own paper, they don't have to buy their own toner. Take that money and throw it right in the buildings. Because I'm gonna tell you a secret. I've been telling administrators, if they need something, don't let the district tell you they don't have money. Because that supply item is over budgeted every year. So don't let them tell you that either. It's crazy. And I'm being as nice as I can And I think I'm being very nice today as opposed to last time, but it's crazy. The amount of value that is attached to the employees this year by the board and the district of $3 million.
I do have one question.
Go ahead.
To take you back to your presentation on, I think it's slide 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh yeah, there's 4 in the bottom. You have an asterisk for approximate top of salary schedule. I think you address it, but I don't remember what the asterisk meant.
I can look at that if I put together. It was some of the, I was fact checking all of those numbers, Kirk.
I'm sorry?
I was fact checking the numbers and some of the, that's what Ron said, some of them went to, topped out at 21 years and then some topped out at.
Oh, the asterisk was there.
I was
different.
We were trying to figure out what that cap.
Yeah, and then I just carried about all the 30 years to get rid of that crap, to get rid of the asterisk. So that was why. I have to take it out right now. Oh.
I just want to say something. So under our shared interests, the top 3 interests, or the top 3 that are listed, we'll phrase that, is teacher retention and recruitment, employee morale, and reduction of compression. And honestly, as a 17-year teacher, getting a $300 raise, I don't feel we've met any of those.
Okay, what do we do next?
Do you have some scenarios that you've run? Are you prepared to share any of that today?
Yeah, I can share with you the solution file of what, when we can just kind of plug in some of those numbers and what they look like. Do we have names on, we don't want to present names on that. So can we just share that with you? Do you want to do it today or do you want to take a look at it? I mean, I don't want
I
to.
figured if you wanted to share it today, I mean, we'd have something else to talk about. If not, I don't. Oh, yeah, so we still need to talk about special instructional. Maybe we do that and kind of call it a day. Yeah, I mean, unless we're prepared to really look at what this does, I don't really have any other comments.
I mean, I guess the only, in kind of like along the same lines of last year, if we want to transfer again and take a look at, we didn't do that for today, but we can work on a special instructional kind of the same concept if that's what we're talking about. If you're okay with the concept of what is the special instructional minimum, what is the special instructional maximum, developing what that looks like. But remember, again, we would be looking at the elimination of the supplements that go along with that and just include all of that in base salary. And I think that's what we talked about last year, was that would be a possibility of eliminating those supplements and placing people where they should be in the pay grades. We could have multiple pay grades, we could have one pay grade for special instructional, whatever that might look like, but we would take a look at not doing the same supplements, but I mean, we could have a pay grade for every one of the special instructionals possibly. I guess that's a really deeper, kind of a committee sub work to do with that, I would think.
I was more referring to the idea that they would be able to bring years in, how that looks, because you're right. The special instructional group specifically, as I'm not going to use the word shafted, but has met with more fluctuations to their ability to bring in years than any other group. And then the 47.5 also did them in. So You know, what did you let Spout do to bring in years of experience?
We just had them submit their resumes and we had to, so years, I'm gonna go years X, 'cause who knows what it would be if it was special instructional. The years X represents the years of credible, verifiable experience. So we have to verify it and it has to be directly related to the job that they're doing now. So that's the two words there.
Okay. So have any of these scenarios been played out? Because when you originally were talking about creating these different tiers within, talk about blowing up a unit within, because every person, as has already been mentioned, we are interdependent. So when you say that psychologist is worth more than a social worker, I mean, it just, we all have, almost, not everyone, but most of the people that are within special instructional do have a master's degree or higher. So what are we talking about here? Because like, when you talk about verifiable years of experience, I'm great. I started in this district as a teacher. I have all of my years of experience. My co-counselor came from a different state. She brought it, but it wasn't entered. And she has over 20 years as a teacher and a school counselor and got 0 years.
That's a good example. I mean, and we'd have to determine, in your case, typically, you don't get full credit for your years of classroom instruction that transfer over until, again, your what we call credible experience is how does it specifically relate to your position? And so we have to make those determinations. Like, you got 10 years of classroom instruction, now I've been a counselor for 10 years. Do you have 20 years of experience for years X? Or is it 10 and then a certain percentage of that classroom? That's the way we typically look at that. Is what skills can transfer in that experience to you being a counselor? Is it the whole 10? Or is it, your ability to one-on-one counsel with kids? Did it have anything to do with teaching math? What does teaching math have to do with counseling? I mean, those are legitimate conversations that you have to have about, and that's the way an open range system works, is what is the direct skills that you bring through that experience to the position you're at?
Well, I agree, but are we looking at other states? Many states
Yes.
require to be a school counselor, you had to have been a teacher first.
That's part of the,
administration.
if there's a minimum requirement for that, that's part of the job.
But beyond that, I can't see this kicked down the road again. I cannot go and look at the people within the special instructional unit and say, oh, sorry, we gotta wait another year for this. So what are we by the next time we meet, we need to have a solid plan, because we've said that since I've been on the team, that's
I mean,
3-4 now.
can we initiate the process, which is basically what we did with Spout? We'll say, okay, we will send letters out to all of our special instructional people with instructions on how to submit their credible, verifiable years of experience. We can start that data collection tomorrow. I'm sorry, Kirsten. I probably should have asked her first when we could start that, but, because it's amount of work for her and her team to go through every one of those pieces and figure out, what the years X are gonna be with that.
So
that takes time.
Starting that process, if there's challenges to it, and you can bring in, say, your certifying organization. I'll just talk about ASCA, because that's the one for our professional organization. What would we have where you could bring into special instructional labor management to challenge if the years of experience, whether they would go there or not? Would this be a separate committee?
We can do a little bit of both. Typically, the way we've done it right now is you submit a help ticket. So then we address it individually through the help ticket, like, hey, I want you to, kind of take a second look at this, you know what I mean? And then they respond, well, here's what we saw, here's what else we need, this, or, this is our rationale behind that. And then, but it'd probably be a lot easier to do it with a committee to bring those kind of issues, because it takes them a long time to go through, those help tickets. But, this time around, how many help tickets did we have from just? A lot, couple hundred maybe, couple hundred help tickets, so.
No, I misread. He misread. Defined by range. Harsh.
I did have, sorry.
No, she was just saying the recommendation would be we start the process, like, let's send the letters out, let's start to gather the information, that way it shows a commitment that we're gonna, take the information that we have to do.
Cause I'm just picturing the current like supplements that you're talking about. And we were before, one of the appetite was to equalize everyone within. And now that's changed.
Well, that was an interest, again, so we do research. So we go to the district, Kirsten and her team go to the districts, the similar type districts. They do it at the state level, they also compare to, some other folks even outside of education, like what is the market value of that position? And what should it be? And so then we put together and say, okay, here's where our folks sit in comparison to everyone else. We present that data. I think in the special instructional meeting, we've started to do that too, to gather that. Yeah, so, okay, you could see where you sit in relation to other districts and all those kinds of things. And then it's not a matter of just, again, taking everybody's supplement to make them equal. It's really about doing away with those supplements and really placing you where you should be salary-wise, what you require with what you bring to the table. Can somebody explain to me how the amounts were determined for those supplements?
That's a great question, cause they're supposedly based off of use.
It's completely arbitrary and capricious, and if we needed psychologists, they got more. When we needed nurses, they got more. The same thing with experience. We allowed them to bring in more experience because we wanted to lure people in. It has forever been arbitrary and capricious with no real data-driven value behind it.
He's not wrong, but you
Okay.
look at who on the,
Again,
we have similar
If we
training.
really wanna fix it, then we gotta do it the right way.
So Kevin has seen the start of the data where we got data from all of, the similar school districts, what they actually pay people, and even the market, because there's nurses employed in hospitals and, they are our competition, so we want to include that in our market pay as a competitive pay. We've adjusted all of that data that they provided they have different contract hours than we do, so we adjusted that all by the contract hours. We've adjusted it all by the cost of living for each area to try to get the end numbers as, even, so that we're comparing apples to apples. From that committee, they asked for a little bit more data to be on there, which was adding information on school size and the total ranges. So we're gathering all of that information for the next committee meeting to look into that even further. But we've started gathering all of that information.
Does some of that data also include ratios?
Yes.
Forget what I was gonna say. I requested that data from the special instructional committee meeting. Can you send that over to me? Because I wasn't there and I haven't received a copy of that yet.
It was a paper copy and you shredded afterwards.
It's a public document.
It was definitely to do our data analysis for that committee time. I can share the notes for you for the commit from that meeting.
Thank you. My second question is, as we talk about bringing in verifiable experience, are you looking at making a new category of years, or would this be, in past years, salary increases have been based off years X, and that's where the special instructional group, it's not reliable for them. And that was kind of an attempt to, bring in verifiable experience, an attempt to kind of rectify that. But then as the exchange was happening here, I started picturing a year's social worker, a year's LMHP, a year, is that what you're looking at, or?
I don't think so, the way you just asked. I don't, unless I'm misinterpreting the question, that would not be the case.
I envision that it would be similar to what we've done with Spelk and the other groups. We're evaluating you for your position as a maintenance tech. We're gonna give you years of experience based on your years of a maintenance tech. But then you switch jobs and now you become a bookkeeper. We're gonna wipe out the years of maintenance and now we're just gonna count towards the years as a bookkeeper.
So do we wanna have more discussion, or do we wanna go ahead and get started with that?
Heather?
Not too much to be good, and I think it's difficult to put that position because a lot of
Well, I mean, the example that she used is apples and oranges, you know what I mean? There is transferable from social worker to LMHP, you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. I would think we typically take a look at that. It may not be one for one. It may be 75% to one, you know what I mean? Those kinds of things. You compare those job descriptions and like 75% of this job description fits into this one. So therefore, we'll transfer 75% of your experience there to place you.
So when we start the evaluation process, we create a matrix kind of for each position and all of the other positions that could potentially be counted towards it and, you know, the percentage that will count toward, just so we're all equally evaluating the same. And, you know, Mary's gonna give you more credit than Lucy is. So we have a matrix, which we have to decide what that is, but we need the data first. So that's the time consuming, the big part is collecting all of the data, getting it verified, start analyzing it. So.
With Spouk, who created that matrix and how did you determine if it was 1-to-1, half to one, you know, 2, things like that? Half to one's right, but like 2-to-1.
It was essentially our compensation team sitting down, the 4 of us, and kind of talking through every scenario. And then when a new experience comes up that we're not sure, we kind of all have a little, you know, get together and kind of talk it through and decide, yeah, we'll add that on there as 25% or whatever. So it's really just been our compensation team. And when in doubt, we go to Ron.
Who at the in compensation does all the verification? Like what does that process look like for verifying employment?
Analysts that do that. Like if there's something that they can't verify, then they go through the history. You know, we have a lot of tools now to be able to verify some of those that we didn't have before other than a telephone. But we can look at records to make sure that, you know, that they were actually employed. And I think for us, like teachers have to fill out a form for verification of their previous experience too. I mean, I think we need to just kind of talk about what that might look like for them as well.
So like if an employer is no longer in business, but somebody has records that shows like pay stubs or something, that would work. Okay. So then what would next steps look like?
As a board.
or just for special instruction?
Just for this.
For special instructional, I think we craft a letter, we share it with you. This is the letter we're sending out to all of our special instructional people. You know, this is our attempt to collect the years of experience so that we can develop the salary placement on a pay range that.
I would disagree with pay range because we haven't agreed to that.
No.
If you say pay range in the letter, people are gonna assume it's a pay range, and we have not agreed to a pay range. We are looking
I guess I'm.
to modify, to possibly modify their year's X
Right.
that the district has on file.
Okay,
That's it.
I guess I'll kind of spitballing that just to say, we'll share it with you before we send it out to make sure we're in agreement on what that letter says. And then the avenue for which they will submit that experience. And if we agree that we need to have it notarized or whatever, that's fine. Or as long as we can, we didn't do that for, I mean, that's what our teachers do. We didn't have to do that with SPALC. It was through work experience. That's up to us, whatever way we decide to do that.
Yeah, I think
We'd like to move forward with that, and we'd be interested in working with you, developing kind of the year-to-year, kind of the one-for-one type of matrix or
Okay.
whatever.
Great. Is that an option, or is that just a, oh, okay to amend that to say initial data collection of addressing years of experience for special instructional? Yeah, that's okay. Are we okay with putting that to the test?
Are we good with starting the initial steps to gather work experience? Bill? You good? All right. Okay. So we are not done. We have an hour and a half left, or do we schedule another session?
The best is to schedule another session.
Anybody have any proposals for the time?
We, one of the things I think we should consider in scheduling I mean, we've talked to TISA and we got a good idea of what it is. It's not necessarily law yet. I don't know if we wanna, we're told that it will be signed into law by the end of this week. I would assume we wanna make sure that it is in place before we continue the discussion. We do have a little bit of time. I mean, obviously, if it is signed into law, we have some time constraints that go along with TISA, and are we still interested in separating that out?
I again wanna clearly state that everyone on the district side of the team is currently under contract to work for the district. I am currently under contract to work for the district. Karen and Elizabeth are with FEA. I have members who are going on vacation, have planned vacations, and now, again, so we wait until July, because if we wait till July, The earliest date I can do is the 10th. Unless you'd like to fly me back from Denver for a day of bargaining and fly me back, which I'll do, but I'm not paying for it. And most of my team is going. So that's the 10th, that's the earliest.
Like, oh, obviously, they should.
And it would be great to get a greater commitment to the full-time from the district side. Because the trash was talked about, we didn't negotiate over the summer. The district side looks pretty slim. And again, every district person is under contract with the district right now and working. So let's pick a date where, everybody can be here.
Sounds like we're looking at the week of July 10th.
The 10th is a Friday, so it'd be the 13th or later. 13th through 17th is testing. In the afternoon, Shay can do it.
So the 13th at 1 o'clock? When you say afternoon, what?
4 o'clock, 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. It's a state testing week.
Okay. July 13th at 3 o'clock?
Can we go forward to give Shay the
Yes.
opportunity to make sure she's here?
Yes.
I mean, Anna won't be here. Everybody else on my team, is that day okay? Okay. Okay,
Next session, July 13th from 4 to 7.